Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bill Brown. I'm a Canaan High School class of 1928, along with Mr. Festo. We were 12 years old when we graduated from high school. And I am on the board of the Canaan Old Timers Association. Our president, Leonard Paglialunga, asked me to welcome everyone and say a few words before we begin our ceremony today. So welcome after a 2-year, we haven't been here in 2 years, right? So welcome to our New Canaan Old Timers Association induction ceremony. So before we begin our little blurb, before every one of our meetings we have, we'd like to do the Pledge of Allegiance. So can everyone please stand and face the flag, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all. Remain standing for 1 second. Unfortunately, we've lost a few old timers this past year, so we'd just like to take a moment to remember all of our honored who aren't here anymore. So just 1 moment, please. Great, thank you all very much. Once again, welcome to our induction ceremony today. It's a wonderful day, fantastic weather, and we're just happy to be back out here, and it's just wonderful to be here today. Once again, I'm Bill Brown. I'm just going to be your little bit beginning host, and then Mr. Dinan will take over with the Master of Ceremonies for all the induction ceremonies. So, New Canaan Old Timers was formed in 1982, and we recognize and honor New Canaan High School athletics history. I can actually remember my first football game that I ever went to. I was trying to think last night. My brothers played, all three of my brothers played for Coach Lynch and Coach Sikorsky, and I think it was 1967, across the street over at the old field at Saks. And I never forget Coach Sikorsky and Coach Zioli from Wilton yelling at each other from across the field. Just great memories of football and being a part of this wonderful community. I can also remember that I was at Coach Marinelli's first win at Ripperwam High School. That was very exciting. It seems like only yesterday. And I remember taking a bunch of kids up to the 1982 state championship up at Hampton High School. And I'll never forget, it was 72 degrees on December 3rd. It was a beautiful day, and Mr. McInerney led the Rams to victory. So, yeah, writing down the plays. So it's just great to be here and great to honor these wonderful athletes who have helped and molded our young people in New Canaan High School. I'd like to first of all quickly congratulate them and their Bob Festo, Tom McInerney, Lou Sochi, Katie Twombly-Ryan, Paul Gallo, and then also we're going to do a little something for Wilkie Gilmore. So congratulations to all of our honorees today. Yes. One thing that I think is pretty cool is that little old New Canaan High School in New Canaan, Connecticut has 4 professional athletes. We have Lucas Niang playing for the Kansas City Chiefs, Zach Allen playing for the Arizona Cardinals, Kurt Casale playing for the San Francisco Giants, and Max Pacioretty playing for the Vegas Golden Knights. That's pretty good for a little old New Canaan, Connecticut, so that's not bad. Part of what the Old Timers Association does is gives out money and scholarships. We help fund the Vin Iovino Scholarship that's given out at the end of the year, every year at the senior ceremonies. Donations given to the community that we try to help people that, athletics in need. And so that's a couple of things that the money and what we try to do here at New Canaan Old Timers Association. The big thing is the Vin Iovino Scholarship. We have yearly events. We have our homecoming breakfast is back this year. I think it's on the 23rd of October. It's a Saturday. So we'd love to have everybody come to the homecoming pancake breakfast at the high school. We have our annual golf outing, which is actually next Tuesday, because unfortunately we had a little weather issue and it got rained out a couple of times. So it's next Tuesday, and we'd love to have everybody play. If you're interested, you can go onto the website and register for the golf outing. We would like, please, all of our former honorees, if you're in the stands, and we'd just like to recognize you real quick. So any other former New Canaan High School, New Canaan Old Timers Association honorees, could you please stand for a clap, please, if you're here, everybody? Anybody's old timer? A special welcome to one of the most wonderful people in the world, and who just turned 90 years old, Fizz Tomaselli. Hi, Fizz, you're the best. Just turned 25 years old. Way to go, Fizz. We're also going to have a raffle today. I think there's going to be a few little prizes at the end, so you're more than welcome to partake in the raffle and also the 50-50. Our committee members, thank you guys for all you do. President Leonard, thank you everybody for everything that you guys do as well. A thank you to our sponsors who are listed in the program. And thank you for all your help and all your donations to our organization. We really appreciate that. Dave Stewart does a great job with our New Canaan Advertiser and FCX site. So all the stuff is now, you can find out the scores right away on the computer. So thank you to Dave. Thanks to Channel 79, New Canaan High School, NCTV, or this is I'm sorry, not NCTV, but Channel 79 for being here to film everything. One quick thank you to somebody who I think doesn't get enough thank yous in this town, and that's Mr. Steve Benko. Over the years, I've seen Steve, he's the head of the recreation department here, and I've seen Steve go out to Mead Park and rake the field before baseball games, and he does a lot of unsung stuff. And so, Steve, thank you very much for everything. Okay, once again, thank you for being here. Welcome, and I think we're going to start the program. So to introduce today's MC, we're going to have Mr. Terry Dinan. Now, Terry is, I used to yell at him on the playground at Center School years ago for roofing kickballs and everything. So actually, that was the best day of my life when I first roofed my first kickball. So, and it was just about 2 weeks ago. So Terry does a great job. He's our historian. He does a lot of research on former New Canaan athletes and their athletic prowess, and we're very, very, very lucky to have him be with our organization and be such a wonderful person to have here to remember and recognize all of our former student athletes who are wonderful players, wonderful people. So to continue with the ceremony, I would like to introduce to you Mr. Terry Dinan.
Great. Thank you so much, Bill. Great intro. Possibly our best intro in the 37 years that we've been doing this. Again, my name is Terry Dinan. It is my pleasure and honor to welcome you all to our 37th annual New Canaan Old Timers ceremony. It is so great to see you all here today. It's been a heck of a 2 years since we last met. It's been a time of fear, a time of uncertainty, a time of stressful days and sleepless nights. And for me personally, for months, these terrible fears, they persisted day and night until one day in June of 2020, when I finally got to see my daughter play softball with the Stratford Breakettes organization. She had her sophomore year canceled in college and her academic year canceled as well. It was a tough time for all of us, but in June, she got to play again. I got to see her compete, I got to see her succeed, and sometimes I got to see her fail. But I got to see her. I got to see her with her friends, I got to see her with her coaches, I got to see her with her teammates. And for a couple of hours that day, we all got to escape. And when we returned to reality, for the first time since this whole thing started, we got to believe that maybe, just maybe, we would be okay. Maybe we're gonna get through this. And finally, there was hope. And after a difficult fall season when football was canceled, and those in charge of football worked so hard to get it back, to give those kids some kind of an experience, I got to cover some basketball games in the winter. And I remember mentioning to New Canaan basketball coach Danny Melzer, who's here with us today, how much I missed it, and that I could only imagine what it was like for him to coach and for these kids to play. And again, being able to see these kids being coached, interacting as a unit, working harder to get better, to sacrifice, to learn what it's like to be part of something bigger than themselves, to be part of a team, to represent a school, and to represent a community. It was very powerful. And it dawned on me that these are the things that sports truly mean. It's not about stats or records or getting likes and follows on social media. It's about developing as a human being, learning those valuable life lessons from great coaches and educators. And I look out there and I see Lou Marinelli, all-time winningest coach in Connecticut football history. Again, I see Danny Melzer, who brought a state championship home to New Canaan after years. I see Bill Brown, Paul Gallo, Bobby Festo, Louis Sochi, and so many others who are not here today, who we have honored and we continue to honor. And what it's taken away, it's not just losing a parental photo op, something to post on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. It's not a trophy that ends up in stores. You lose a vital, crucial, integral part of the development of our kids. You lose the opportunity to escape the troubles of everyday life. You lose the chance to hope, to dream, to celebrate. So as we move forward, let's not forget, let's never take for granted a single practice, a single play, a game, a season, or an experience. And let's never let anyone ever say again, it's just a game, because it's so much more than that. It's why we do what we do with the Old Timers. It's why we're here, and it's why we're so grateful for you all for being here. Thank you so much. And now on to our honorees. A member of a great multi-generational New Canaan family, Louis Sochi was a football and indoor-outdoor track star at New Canaan High School, participating in the shot put and javelin, and he was a starter on the 1982 state championship football team, the first state title of Coach Marinelli's storied career. Louis was a hard-nosed defensive lineman, a leading tackler who embodied in many ways that workmanship identity of the team and that era. He was someone who matured over the years, someone who always got the most out of himself, someone who always worked to get better and inspired his teammates to do the same. A multi-sport athlete who also played basketball and lacrosse at New Canaan, in addition to his football and track exploits, Lou went on to play at Wagner College and the University of New Haven. After injuries ended his playing career, Lou graduated from UNH and began a long and successful coaching career at New Canaan, Norwalk, Milford Academy, and Staples High School. No matter where he went, Louis always left the program in better shape than when he started, which is a sign of a truly great coach. In 2007, he was named the National Football Foundation and College Hall of Fame Ralph DeSantis Fairfield County Chapter FCAC Assistant Coach of the Year. He retired from coaching football in 2016 and became more active in officiating, where he has participated in everything from collegiate and international competition right down to youth sports. Please join me in congratulating a man with an undying passion for sports and one with New Canaan red and black in his DNA, Louis Sochi.
Thank you. Congratulations. If it looks like I'm walking on eggshells, I am. You let nothing go by.
Speak close to the mic.
You let nothing go by any day, and that includes your health. And I've been beaten up a little bit over the last year, notwithstanding a few stints in the hospital. But I'm on the mend. I just wish I were on the mend a little bit quicker. Because those statements that you hear as a player, as a coach, that all good things come to an end, all that stuff is true. It's true in such a real and palpable way that it hits you like a truck. Like, the next day you're running around officiating a football game, and the next day you get a phone call from, a technician that can barely say your last name saying you need to drive yourself to the hospital and get put on oxygen. That doesn't sound like a smart thing for someone who needs to be put on oxygen. But anyway, things are so fleeting. And it's funny because I've been an old timer much longer than I've been an old timer. You see, I go back to the days of the Old Timers Association when it was a clam bake at Brox's Sachs house on the backyard, where a guy named Joe DePanny, my dad's best friend, would do the food. And I would get hired to run the raw bar because I was the only one that had enough stamina to keep up with the animals that were unleashed upon me as soon as that raw bar opened. You know, and then you take that experience of growing up in this town with Vin Sochi as your dad, and you go in and out of places like the Veg Barn, which is like a breeding place for old timers. You know, it's like that movie where the old folks slept in the cocoons and they never got old. That's the Veg Barn. Now it's Dunkin' Donuts. And so, you know, I was hearing about guys like Mr. Keys and Mr. Gilmore and all these names when I was sitting at the little kids table on 92 Forest Street just waiting to get to the big table with the big bowl of pasta. You know, I know who Mr. Keys is. I know he was the guy that was letting kids sneak into the gym to play basketball on cold winter days. I know that guy. And I know his sneakers, they would squeak. And that's how they all knew he was coming. And what frustrated him to the end, that he could never catch them in that gymnasium. And my father's favorite sport in the world was basketball. And I stunk at it. I couldn't put a basketball in the ocean if I was sitting in a beach chair right next to it. So I was an old timer long before I was an old timer. Because my dad had the smarts to know he would never make a basketball team with Wilkie Gilmore on it. So he went and became something he could not get fired as, the manager. And that's how someone like Joe Sikorsky came into my life. So at a very young age, all these guys from this old timers group are coming into my age. You know, my freshman year in high school, I had Joe Sikorsky as a PE teacher. Ladies, he made us do knuckle push-ups on the gymnasium floor. And I'm not talking like 3 or 4 just to experience the sheer power of that hard wood on your knuckles, because nothing could ever compare to that power of the deck of the aircraft carrier that he used to have to do those push-ups on when he was in the Navy. And we heard it all. And then you play Pop Warner football at the new police station's grass parking lot. That's where we practice. And you had guys like Denny LaPola and Ed Reddy that were your coaches. And I finally just figured it out, what Ed Reddy was doing. All those years that I played for him, that I was running laps with my hands over my head, it all just came to me that he was getting me ready for becoming a prisoner of war so that I would know how to jog with my hands over my head. Because he would pontificate about the sorrows of being a soldier in Korea while we were at football practice. I just turned 55. I just figured that out. So that's what being an old timer is to me. Those type of things. Because I didn't make my hay being a player. You know, somewhere it said that a 5 technique in Coach Marinelli's defense is a shade touch above a shaved gorilla, which is what I was, who he couldn't quit on because there was something redeemable about me. So the word was we take our biggest, most orneriest person that would most look like a shaved gorilla standing at 5 technique. Hence, Randy Bacon and the crazy Tennessean, my partners in crime. You surround them with some really good athletes, like a linebacker in Mario Lopez and Tom Marriott as a defensive end, and you give them a couple of simple tasks. If nobody's blocking you, close down and wreck a trapper. If somebody's trying to avoid blocking you, don't let him get to Mario Lopez. It won't make you look good. And then I kind of come to the things I think about, like what is my lineage as a coach? Because that's where I've made my hay. And if I don't mind saying it, Coach, I don't know how many you've had go on and become coaches and teachers. I know your son, I know Chris, I know me. I'm sure there are more, but I got to be hard pressed to find 3 better ones that could say they come from your tree. And that's what I think about next. I was educated by people with the names Sikorsky and Totola and Marinelli and Iovino, and how to be a coach. And think about what all those names open up to me. They opened up Jay Egan and Mickey Leone, which automatically opened me up into the Stanford crew of coaches, which opened me up to the DiMattios of Westchester, which opened me up to the guys at Susan B. Anthony Wagner High School, which Coach Totola had, which opened me up to Mars Petrosio and Jerry McDougall. It's like I come from some lineage. I've been taught by some incredible people. And they're always right. It doesn't matter when it comes up, but they're always right. You're right, Coach. It doesn't matter what we know. It matters what we can get them to know. That's Lou Marinelli. That's Mickey Leone. That's Bo Hickey. That's all those guys. Be prepared. The way we get ready for a game. That's Lou Marinelli. Lou Marinelli taught me how to take apart a game inside and out with one piece of videotape. So I know I'm over my 8 minutes, but some things just got to be said, because someday they won't be able to be said. So for anyone who helped me get here, right now, I stand firmly upon your shoulders. And I owe that obligation to anyone else that wants to follow that path, to be there so that they can stand upon my shoulders to pass on what it means to be an old timer. Thank you.
Just wanted to bring to anyone's attention, whoever attended Center School, we have a late arrival to the party, and I just wanted to point him out because he is also a former old-timer honoree, and that is Mr. Charles Malott. Mr. Malott, welcome. So great to see you. Thank you for coming here. Bob Festo was born in Stamford, Connecticut, moved to New Canaan when he was 2 years old, and attended East, Saxe, and the high school. In youth, he participated in as many athletic programs as New Canaan had to offer, and was one of Steve Banco's first campers at the New Canaan Rec Department's summer camp program for kids. An FCAC honorable mention for soccer as a goalkeeper his senior year. Bobby is listed in the who's who of American high school athletes as an All-American in track and field. Bobby set several records as a sprinter for New Canaan and was a multi-medalist at state and invitational track and field competitions as a sprinter in both individual events and as a member of relay teams. Bobby went to college at Southern Connecticut, where he joined the men's track team for a year and a half while also playing soccer for all 4 years of college. The soccer team qualified for the NCAA Division II Final Four tournament, representing the New England region all 4 years of his goalkeeping. After graduating in 1982 with a degree in phys ed, Bob became a teacher in New Haven and Stamford and coached track and field and soccer at New Canaan High School. Currently a teacher at the Beecher Magnet School in New Haven, Bob and his family live right here in New Canaan. Please join me in congratulating Bobby Festo.
Thanks, Billy. Wow.
Right to the mic, Bob.
Yep, to the mic. Got it. Okay. All right, here goes nothing. First off, thank you, everybody, for being here today. Thank you, the nominating committee, for selecting me. It's like a long time coming home. You're right, Lou. It's tough. Tough as a player to say it's over. It's tough as a coach to say it's over. Even harder when you coach the sports you play. That's why I wore the tie and the cowboy boots. So I would never forget who got me here. Coach Sikorsky, Coach Stratton, all the teachers in phys ed, Coach Mosley, Coach Sikorsky. They put time into me so I could put time into the people I coached. That tie was awful tight those first 2 years when I had only 3 wins as a soccer coach and 1 win as a track coach. I said, what am I doing? Is it supposed to be this hard? And I remembered what Coach Sikorsky told me. Fess, it doesn't matter how you got to the finals. You're in it, and that's all that matters. It's 100 yards for everybody. Do your best. Do my best. That's what Pop said, Mom, my wife, my children. Do your best. And John knows, many a game in the backyard, it was the best when we held nothing back. Band-Aids, blood, the whole schmear. The neatest thing of all about New Canaan is if you needed 13 teams, they found 13 coaches. No one stayed at home. If you wanted to play, you could get better. They would show you. You remember Mr. Malott down at Mead Park playing soccer in the field with the geese? Kicking them off the field so we could play with Mr. Stratton. I remember that like yesterday. And I would go back. Also, too, what New Canaan prepared me for was Southern Connecticut. Though I had to wear blue and white, a major wardrobe problem, because it's a state school, darn it. I bled red and black. They said to me one day as I was putting on goalie black, right before my last game as a senior at home, where Coach Murphy showed up and my mother, and every friend I had at Southern Connecticut that wanted to see me play my last game. They said, what are you wearing light black for? It's cloudy. I said, not where I'm looking. He says, war paint. It's time to go to war. He goes, they would say, what's wrong with you? I would say, I'm from New Canaan, and no one could be prouder. And if you don't believe me, I'm just going to yell a little louder. And I did. Ask Diane. She was there. And I gave as much as I got and back. Because at Southern, it was hard. I had become a number. I was a walk-on, on a soccer team and the track team. We didn't go to the Olympics that year, so I stopped training for the decathlon. Had a dream that I wanted to put my racing spikes next to Bill Toomey's. That didn't quite work out. But I wasn't going to go down without swinging. And I played my heart out for that school. Got fortunate enough to have 5 pro tryouts, made 1 team, made everything, and flunked the physical because of all the injuries. Right, Lou? We played hurt because that's what we did. Because that's what we only knew how to play hard. And then at the end, when I knew my playing days were over, I said, okay, what am I going to do? I said, well, I can't be an athlete. Now I'm going to work on the PE part and the coaching part. First interviewed for a job at New Canaan to be the soccer coach, and I didn't get it. That hurt. Then Coach Mosley walked over to me and said, you want to be the indoor and outdoor track coach? I couldn't pick anybody better to take over for me. And I said, okay. 6 o'clock in the morning, practices in the gym. Oh my God, I live in Bridgeport. Well, I went there and I never looked back. And then I got a phone call from the varsity coach, Elias Reedus, said, I need you to be the JV soccer coach. Boy, I did not want to hear that. I didn't want to be number 2, I wanted to be number 1. I don't know what number 2 is. Heck with that. Well, guess what? The next year he left and I became number 1. And there I coached for about 12 years. And the program got a little better, and I had a real good season in 1997. We were 10-0. 10 wins. Holy God. I remember a couple years you couldn't add together and get 10 wins, right, honey? She'd watch me walk the floor to 4 in the morning till I got it done, till I worked it out. And when anybody coaches, the family coaches with them, because they live it too. No matter how we say they don't, they do. Sorry about that, guys. Except for 1 year, too, summer, I got to coach you. That was really cool. Lastly, when I was done coaching, you walk off that field for the last time, and you know that all the pages are closed, and you've written everything else. You pray that it was as good as it was for you as a player, that you made it from everybody else. As an athlete, I used to always say to my mother, I said, I felt like I'm the ruler that other great athletes get measured by. I make it to the finals and I find a way somehow to come up short. Why can I not come away with the gold? I had silver, bronze, and every other color under the sun, but I never got the gold ring. I said, huh? And Coach Sikorsky, God rest his soul, wherever you are, and Brian, he said to me, come on, Fess, you're here. A lot of the boys went home already. You're still here. I said, yep, I'm still here. And yep, I'm still trying. And that is what I hope I have given my kids, that I had the luxury of coaching in this town, that I gave you the opportunities that I had. And Lou, you're right. We stand on other great men and women because we would have never got here without them, because it would have been so much easier to give up. Coach Mosley made me promise that someday I'd get here. Well, I got here. And today I'm not the ruler. I have the golden ring. For everybody who nominated me and everybody who's played for me or with me, thank you. Thank you for this great honor. It means a tremendous lot to a 5th generation New Canaanite. Which Pop was here, my Aunt Louise. If anybody know Aunt Louise, you know you wish she was here too. And Mom, wherever you are at home, thank you. Thanks, Bill.
Father, actually, that is good from the heart, that is good from the heart. Congratulations.
Paul Gallo's athletic career began with his 4 years at New Canaan High School, lettering in soccer and wrestling under legendary coaches such as Bill Murphy, Warren Russell, and Steve Rogowski. While achieving excellence in both soccer and wrestling, it was on the mat that Paul achieved the most recognition. After wrestling varsity at 98 pounds, while only weighing 86 pounds in his freshman year, Paul won a Class L CIAC championship at 98 pounds as a sophomore, becoming the first New Canaan wrestler to win a Class L state title. Paul was also the first New Canaan wrestler to make 3 FCAC finals in New Canaan High School history, and is one of only 4 wrestlers to have made the finals 3 times, finishing second in all 3. He finished 4th in the Class Ls at 112 pounds his junior year, and 2nd in the Class L, and 4th in the CIAC Open his senior year. Paul went on to the University of Connecticut, where he was on the last wrestling team in UConn's history, finishing 4th at the Division I New England tournament at 118 pounds. Paul found his true passion when he became the head wrestling coach at New Canaan High School, a title he held for 30 years, compiling a career record of 347 wins, 247 losses, and 5 draws from 1989 to 2019. It's very difficult to encapsulate Coach Gallo's impact, and we usually don't do this, but it's unprecedented times, and certainly unprecedented for Coach Gallo's successor, Bobby Rushton, who is not here today because he's celebrating his 1-year anniversary. But I will read a letter from Coach Rushton that sums it up better than I ever could. Paul Gallo has been an integral part of the sport of wrestling for the last 30-plus years. He is a New Canaan High School graduate and once walked the halls as a student athlete before taking over the wrestling program in 1989. He brought to life to the high school the wrestling program and helped establish youth wrestling in town. He has coached 23 FCAC champions, 6 CIAC State Open champions, 2 New England champions, a national champion, all while collecting 347 dual meet wins. He has left his mark on the sport of wrestling, but even more important than that is the man, the person, the coach, and the friend that Paul is. Over the last years, I've had the privilege to sit alongside Paul and watch him interact, teach, and build relationships with athletes and families, all while being a great mentor, role model, and friend. He embodies what the word coach means, and I will forever be grateful for the knowledge and wisdom he continues to pass down. I consider Paul a friend for life, and am so thankful to have him as a mentor at New Canaan High School and for bringing me into the New Canaan wrestling family. I look forward to our upcoming season. So with all that said, please join me in honoring a lifelong New Canaanite and a man who is just as proud of this town as New Canaan is of him, Mr. Paul Gallo.
Okay, the reality is, when I came into high school, I was tiny. Now, if anybody doesn't know this, Bob Fester over there, I used to be able to hit his house with a rock from my yard. Now I might be able to roll a rock to his driveway, but I grew up in his yard and we played everything. The reason I play sports is I grew up with him, my brothers, and our whole neighborhood playing sports. Now, you have to understand something. In those school pictures, the little guy in the middle was always me. Me and Bruce Calitri. We sat in every picture going all the way through each school, and we were these little tiny guys. Now, Bob doesn't really tell you how fast he was. And his brother John wasn't much slower. Now, I spent a lot of time in the little carriage with their mothers pushing us down the street with John, but those were 2 of the fastest kids you'll ever see. Bob broke a 10 flat in the 100 yards. Now, I had these little tiny legs, and we played tackle football, and it was, you know, if you could, you took him right through the hedge and destroyed his grandfather's yard. So, they were faster than me, twice my size. The reason I was good at wrestling and good at sports is because you learn to dodge and you learn to go side to side, because if you didn't, you died. So they're the reason, and my brothers and all our neighborhood kids, that I became a good athlete. Now, I was a good wrestler, and you know, they say, oh, I was a first Class L champ, but that's it. I was a first Class L champ. You know, I've coached, and they have surpassed me, and that is the biggest thing that's happened, is I get the most out of it. All those kids I coached, they surpassed me, and that's a pleasure. So, how I got into coaching, had a job I hated, and my best friend, Pete Johnson, goes, they're gonna cut the wrestling program. You gotta come and help out. And he said, we'll do it together. I saw him 3 times the whole season. I don't think he's seen enough wrestling to actually encompass a whole season. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here, but we go way back, and he's my wrestling person. Now, I got into New Canaan, and I found a passion. I mean, I love coaching. I get so much out of it, you can't even imagine how much you get out of coaching. And you come to New Canaan, I hope anybody who has children here or had children here appreciates what kind of town New Canaan is. My father was born directly across the street from where I live now. He was an original New Canaan. He came here, he was honored here in 2000. He was my coach for almost every sport I had growing up in baseball. And he really gave me my first exposure to coaching. Now, this town, the coaches, it's a family. I mean, everybody I've coached with, you become a family. Vin Iovino, Jay Egan, they give you the support you need to succeed. They give you support. You succeed in New Canaan as coaching. But the New Canaan coaches are good, and they care about your children. And that's the important thing. You have a group of people who care more about your children than winning. Now, honest to God truth, when I first started coaching, that wasn't the case. I was competitive and I cared about winning, but it took me a while to learn. It's not about the winning. And it's not about the guy who wins the national champion and wins New England's. I mean, it's great that you have those kids. Those kids are gonna succeed. It's not a problem. You put some of these kids out, those guys who win, they're the stars. You don't have to motivate them. You don't have to go, they're the guys who come after practice and say, I want to stay after practice, coach. I want to work. You know, coach, I'm going to go run 25 stairs because I just need to be in better shape because I want to win. Those guys, they're a joy. They make you feel good, and they expose you to all the other coaches where everybody says, oh, what a great coach. He's got this guy winning. Has nothing to do with it. Nothing. I mean, I helped them, I guided them, I hopefully made them better people and better wrestlers. I mean, I've coached track, I've coached soccer with Coach Festo and track. I'm now the JV golf coach with Coach Brown, and I'll tell you, that is a great job. I'm working out with Priscilla. The only problem with golf is I learned growing up, go hard, go harder, go hardest. There is no let up, and you go until your leg falls off or you die. And when I try to play golf, it doesn't work. I stink. My rule is, if you can't beat me, you can't make the team. But I've learned a lot from the other coaches. I really have coached with some great coaches. But what I've learned is the most important kid isn't the best kid. I get more out of the kid who stinks. I mean, he's horrible. Kid can't do anything, but that kid's in the room every day. And it's not like he can wrestle kids who are worse than him. He is the kid who's the worst. But he shows up every day for 4 years. And when he's a senior, he's the kid that goes out there and he wins some matches. He may not be 500, but the kid had the guts and the fortitude to do it. And that's the hardest thing. You know, winning's easy. When you're losing all the time, that's hard. And that's what sport of wrestling does. It builds that character and the drive. And I never get mad when a kid can't do 4 years, when he does a year and says, coach, not for me. But that's just part of the thing. You don't hate the kid for it. You just say, okay, good, go have success in something else. And that's the thing I learned from coaching. And that's the thing I learned from the coaches around me at New Canaan, because I think it's an attitude that a lot of them have. It's hard work. It's, making the effort. it's not always the success, but it's the road getting there. And I found that to be important. I had at one point, 8 of my wrestlers in active duty. Right now, one of my ex-wrestlers is an instructor at West Point. And he's instructing one of my wrestlers who's a freshman there right now. And he came to New Canaan and did the physical test for this young gentleman to help him get into West Point. And that's the kind of thing you like to see, give back. And that's the most important thing about it. New Canaan's a family. It's a town I love. I've been here my whole life, and I'll probably die here. And I just want to thank you for inducting me. I want to thank my mother for all the support she gave me. My brother was a 2-year captain. I was a 2-year captain. She ran the FCAC. She was that mom who did everything. And when I first started coaching, for the first 5 years, she came in and helped run the FCAC. I mean, she's always been there. My siblings all wrestled, except for my sister. But she's a rock, and she's always there for my mother and for the rest of us. And my brothers have always had an interest in wrestling and helped me out with that, and I really appreciate it. And thank you for this honor, and congratulations for everyone else who's getting in.
Great job, buddy.
So I first heard about Tom McInerney in 3rd grade, Bantam League baseball. I was on the Senecas, Tom was on the Saranaks. And we played over on those old fields at Saks, you know, the ones where you're facing the center fielder from the other field. And there would always be a kid who would hit a ball from one field to the next and interrupt play, and everybody would look over and say, oh, who did that? That kid was Tom. And I specifically remember my coach, who also happened to be my dad, employing the questionable strategy of intentionally walking Tom 3 times in our game against them. Yes, intentional walks in Bantam League. Not something I'm particularly, I think there might have been a hit by pitch in there too, out of frustration, but while I'm not so proud of that, I can still say to this day, Tom, you have not gotten a hit off of me. Tom was in a class with a ton of great athletes, and he stood out. Wasn't particularly big, there might have been faster kids, but nobody wanted to win more, and no one had the courage to lead better than Tom McInerney. Didn't matter if it was mat ball in Mrs. Schultz's class, scooter soccer with Mrs. Ballott's, wiffle ball or floor hockey with Hans Schneider. Tom wanted to win, and Tom always did win. And that will to win helped Tom stand out when we entered New Canaan High School in the fall of 1987. Tom started an impressive athletic career over his 4 years at NCHS, lettering in football, basketball, and track under legendary coaches Lou Marinelli and Don Usher. While achieving excellence in both basketball and track, including being a letterman on the varsity basketball team under Coach Usher during that magical run in the 1989 state championship game, it was on the gridiron that Tom achieved the most recognition. After leading the freshman and JV teams to undefeated seasons in his first 2 years, running the Ram wing T attack, Tom became a 2-year varsity starter for Coach Marinelli and the Rams. During his junior year, he quickly established himself as one of the preeminent quarterbacks in the state of Connecticut as a dual-threat run-pass quarterback, achieving honorable mention, all-county, and all-state. Heading into Tom's senior season, he was named a preseason Street and Smith All-American Honoree as part of the magazine's 50th anniversary issue. During his senior season, Tom earned all-county and all-state selection honors following a successful 1990 campaign, including selection into various postseason all-star games, such as the Bridgeport PAL All-Star Football Classic and the Nutmeg State Games. And who will ever forget Tom's performance that year against the Trumbull Eagles, under Coach Jerry McDougal in a heated late-season FCIAC matchup. Down 13 points in the fourth quarter, Tom rallied the Rams to pull within 4 with less than 4 minutes left to play. Starting on the 6-yard line, Tom orchestrated a 14-play, 94-yard drive highlighted by 6 key pass completions, including a 4th and 11 to split-end John Mountain before the Rams managed to score and win the game 30-28 on the final play of the game. A touchdown run by fellow senior and recent old-timer Scott Overbeck. After graduation, Tom entered Princeton University in the fall of 1991 at the Division I AA level, where he further proved his versatility as an athlete under Coach Steve Tosh's, lettering for 2 years and starting at various points at wide receiver, quarterback, and free safety for the Tigers program that featured future New York Giant Keith Elias. In his first collegiate start at quarterback, subbing for an injured starter, he was named Ivy League Sophomore of the Week against Brown University and a key contributor to the Tigers' 1992 Ivy League co-championship team. Despite missing his junior year to injury, Tom bounced back in the fall of 1994 as a starting free safety for the Tigers that surpassed all expectations after losing numerous key starters and ended up with a 7-3 record during college football's 125th anniversary season. Tom parlayed his confidence, competitiveness, and acumen into a successful business and finance career, taking him to New York, New Jersey, Texas, and ultimately back home to New Canaan. I'll never forget the look on Lou Marinelli's face when he found out that Tom and his 4 boys were moving back to town. Lou might never retire, ever. Tom and his wife Paige are the proud parents of those 4 wonderful young men, each of whom is a standout athlete and the best kids you could ever hope to meet. Tom is active in the community as a member of the Football Association and dedicates his time coaching our youth. Tom, I cannot believe I'm calling you an old-timer, but looking back over our 4 decades of friendship, I guess it fits. I'm so proud of you, proud to be your friend, and proud to introduce you from the class of 1991, Tom McInerney.
Yeah, you did great. Terry's ability to tell a story never ceases to amaze me. But I'll take it. And before I get started, I hope you guys can hear me okay. I just want to say thanks to Terry. His 4 decades of friendship have meant a lot to me. We moved back to New Canaan 4.5 years ago. We've been friends for over 40 years. And the way that he gives back to this community, time and time again, to his friends and to people he doesn't even know, it's not a small thing. So I'm honored to call him a friend, and love you to death, man. I'd like to start by thanking the Old Timers Association. I got to admit, I didn't have a huge understanding of the mission of the organization before Terry let me know this was a reality. And when you look back and you sort of look at the mission of the Old Timers Association, preserving the legacy of the past to create opportunities for current high school students, it's very humbling. It's very humbling. We could certainly use a lot more organizations like the Old Timers Association in this day and age. And I am truly honored to be a part of it. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for the opportunity. But obviously, when you're called an old timer, creates other complications. And when you have 4 kids, as Terry mentioned, there's plenty of ammo now to give me a hard time for the rest of my life. I happen to write down a couple of the comments because I found them very humbling. I have 4 boys, 16 down to 5. And so my 5-year-old, who's probably running around here someplace, had the epic comment, "Dad, does this mean you're old?" I thought that was great. My second son, who's right here, said, "Is this an honor they give you so that there's a place for you to live someday and I can come visit you?" And I was very appreciative that he was worried about my accommodations. My third son, who's 8th grader, asked me if we had color photos when I was a kid. Appreciated that. That was Polaroid, but yes, they did. And then, of course, my 16-year-old, my junior in high school, who this was a good one. "Dad, let me see what I wrote here. Old timers is between never was and past expiration in the dictionary. So that was great. Appreciate that. Just see me when you need your college tuition. So, but I'll take all the ribbing I can get because it's a pleasure to be a part of the organization. To my fellow honorees, to Bobby, Paul, Lou, Katie, incredibly accomplished individuals. Very humbling to be mentioned in the same paragraph as you guys. Thrilled to be here. And then obviously we haven't talked a lot about him, and I didn't know him personally, but Wilkie Gilmore, who we honor here today. Obviously probably the greatest athlete in the history of this high school, and had a distinguished law career, and from what I understand, made everyone and everything around him better with what he touched. So it's an honor to be a part of his legacy here today. We took a lot of different paths to get to this point. I think you heard a few of the stories. Mine was very interesting. We moved to New Canaan in 1979, and I think when I look back, and then wasn't as a parent when I was going through it, the youth, parents, and coaches is really where it all gets started, right? This is an incredible town. People give back. You've all been a part of it in one way, shape, or form as a parent or a coach. We have team moms that selflessly do things like on and on. My mom was one of them, Barbara McInerney. My wife, Paige, gives back. I'm sure many of you do the same thing. Coaches that coach not just because their kids playing, because they actually enjoy the sport and they want to teach the fundamentals. That's unique. It's one of the things that makes New Canaan unique. The best coaches I had were Tom and Barbara McInerney, my parents, who are here, I can't say enough about them as parents. I love them to death, and what I'll say is that they picked me up when I needed it, they kicked me in the butt when I needed it, and were ultimately the best support system that I could ever hope and wish for. So I try to use some of those same lessons today with my own kids. Jury's still out, but we're optimistic. When I got to New Canaan High School in, hard to believe, 1987, which seems like yesterday, if you can all understand, was surrounded by amazing athletes. And some of them are in the back, they're trying to hide, or maybe they're just trying to stay out of the sun. But guys like Scott Overbeck and Chris Passero, Scott Harrison, Jason Kelly, on and on. Some of them are members of the Old Timers Association. All of them should be at some point in time. I would say they were an incredible assortment and crew. They were older, they were younger. I was honored to be in their presence. I don't remember as much scores and things. I do remember competing with them, sometimes against them as kids, but ultimately with them. And it created a remarkable set of memories for me. And I love them to death. Chris Passero was kind enough to start an email chain this week, and I think as all of you can appreciate, when you start getting reconnected to people you haven't heard from in 30 years, it's touching. The content will remain confidential of some of those emails, but suffice it to say, it was good to hear that everybody's leading the life that they all deserved and wanted. When I will say the coaches at New Canaan High School, top notch. When I got to college at Princeton in 1991, I remember saying to myself repeatedly over 4 years, if we could only have the same coaches we had at New Canaan High School. So sometimes when you get on in life and you look back and get perspective, you realize how special the coaches were. And between Diane Murphy, who just stepped down from her role as a trainer, who kept me alive when I didn't think I could go on, and to Don Usher, to Bo Hickey and others, very, very special, unique individuals. And then obviously Lou Marinelli, who's kind enough to be here today, has been in my life for over 40 years, and very, very special to me on a personal level. It's nice to get reconnected with him. I can tell you that and I think there's gentlemen in this room that would all agree with me, every good thing that you've ever heard about him is true. I'll tell you firsthand, he gives back to his players. The relationships he has and he's built are multi-generational, and there's a reason for that. That is not a small thing, and I'm hoping that he sticks around long enough to have some of my boys go through the program. If he doesn't want to, it doesn't matter. We're going to force him to. I think the last thing I want to say is just to my wife, Paige, of nearly 20 years, thank you for putting up with me. And she is truly the person that makes everything run in our household. And my 4 boys, it's so wonderful to have you guys here. It's not often you get to stand up and people say nice things about you, right? But when those times come, you try to take advantage of them. So I'm honored that they're here with me today, and I think Paige and I both share the same sentiment. Growing up in New Canaan is amazing. Now the opportunity to raise our kids here, even more special. And this is a unique town full of unique individuals. Many are in this room. So I just want to thank everybody for their time today, and the special honor, my fellow honorees, congratulations, and I hope everybody has a great day.
You did great. You did great. I hope you join us someday.
Thank you very much.
Katie Twombly Ryan moved to New Canaan in 1992, right at the start of her freshman year at New Canaan High School. She played JV soccer, varsity basketball, and freshman lacrosse that year, and switched to field hockey her sophomore year because she wanted to play for the legendary coach, Sue Schwertle. Twombly made the varsity squad as a sophomore and remained in the starting lineup at midfield for the rest of her high school career. One of New Canaan's greatest three-sport athletes, Katie was a captain of the field hockey, basketball, and lacrosse teams her senior year at New Canaan. An all-FCAC selection in lacrosse both her junior and senior seasons, she made her biggest impact in field hockey. Twombly was an all-FCAC her junior and senior years and netted all state honors as a senior. That same year, she was named FCAC MVP and led the Rams to an undefeated regular season and a share of the FCAC title with Greenwich, the first for New Canaan since 1988, and one that would start a streak of 6 consecutive FCAC East championships and 3 conference crowns. In January of 1996, Twombly was the recipient of the Oxford Human Care Award for sportsmanship, academic achievement, and community service. She went on to continue her field hockey career at Bucknell, where she had a storied career for the Bison, starting every game, beginning with her sophomore year. Katie was named captain her junior and senior years, making the All-Patriot League team both seasons. She joined an elite list of Bison alum when she was honored as a second-team Mid-East Regional All-American in 1998 and 1999. Described as the team's most creative and innovative player with exceptional stick skills and individual attacking adeptness, she was a team leader in game-winning goals, positive tackles, and still places in the top 10 all-time for career assists. Her vision and passing awareness helped gain a reputation as one of the most complete players in the history of the school. Her senior season team still has the record for the most wins in the season more than 2 decades later. After graduating as a Spanish and poli-sci major, Twombly eventually made her way back to New Canaan, where she lives with her husband, Sean Ryan, and 4 children, and is actively involved in New Canaan sports and schools. Please join me in congratulating our youngest old-timer, Katie Twombly Ryan.
I just wanted to first thank the Hall of Fame, Lenny, who's the president I've known since I pretty much moved here. His wife was the Staples field hockey coach, and Lenny used to come to all the games. He would come to any local games I had in college, and he's been a huge supporter of me, and I still, to this day, get to see him whenever I want, as long as I get to Dunkin' Donuts. Normally Monday through Friday, you can always find him there. But I mean, the reason really my field hockey career started is Sue Schwertle. I came here, I played soccer, and it was okay, but everyone was playing field hockey. Maria, the other coach, is in the back there, and all of my friends just talked about it. They couldn't wait to go play for Sue Schwertle and Maria Tomaselli. So I went to field hockey camp the summer before sophomore year and tried out and made it. And I still remember the first game. I was starting a midi against Greenwich Academy. I'd never played organized field hockey, so I didn't know a single rule. So the game started, they'd blow the whistle. I would look to Miss Schwertle. I had no idea, like, did I do something? Did I not? It was very confusing, but I picked it up quickly, and then the rest is kind of history. And then mine's gonna be nice and short. I just also want to thank my family for everything. I've learned recently how much effort parents put into getting their kids to practices and games, and at this point, I think you almost feel like an Uber driver. You just, 3 o'clock rolls around and you're just driving kids from one sport to the next. So I just wanted to say thank you to all the honorees and to the committee. Okay.
You get the MVP today.
Wilkie Gilmore, one of the greatest sports figures in New Canaan history, a charter member of the New Canaan High School Athletic Hall of Fame and an FCAC Hall of Fame inductee. Without question, the greatest basketball player ever to wear the Rams uniform. Maurice Wilkins Gilmore put the sport on the map during his career at New Canaan High School. A true trailblazer on and off the court, his personality, leadership, and athleticism transcended any racial and social barriers that existed in this country in the late 1950s and early 1960s. Wilkie averaged 29 points per game his sophomore season under head coach Lauren J. Keyes, where he led New Canaan to the first of 3 consecutive state championships. The following season, new head coach Joe Sikorsky, Wilkie scored a record 136 points in the 4-game playoffs for an average of 34 points per game, including 24 in the finals, despite being triple-teamed in the Rams' 70-50 win over Windsor Locks. In 1958, Gilmore capped his high school career with a school record 697 points and another state title for yet another head coach, Bill Murphy. A multi-sport athlete and true Renaissance man, Wilkie also earned varsity letters in track, golf, and football, and served as class president for 3 straight years before attending the University of Colorado on a basketball scholarship. Wilkie went on to star for Colorado as a 3-year starter and led the Buffaloes to the 1962 Big 8 championship. In the NCAA tournament, he led Colorado to a victory over Texas Tech, but the Buffaloes ultimately lost in the Elite 8 to eventual champion Cincinnati. In his 3 years at Colorado, Wilkie scored 1,026 points and grabbed 591 rebounds. After graduating Colorado with a degree in business, he was selected in the 14th round of the 1962 NBA draft by the St. Louis Hawks. A knee injury, however, coupled with a crowded St. Louis front court, prevented Wilkie from ever reaching the NBA. So with his playing career behind him, Wilkie earned a law degree from UConn and subsequently had a successful practice for many years alongside Harvey Melzer, father of future New Canaan head coach Danny Melzer. He also established the Wilkie Gilmore basketball camp, helping to teach and inspire generations of young people with his catchphrase, "Dare to be great," something Wilkie achieved in basketball and in life. Wilkie Gilmore passed away too soon in 1993 at the age of 53. A selfless, charismatic, intelligent, and graceful human being, Wilkie etched a singular legacy here in New Canaan and will always be remembered as someone who raised the game of everyone who knew him. Every time you enter the New Canaan High School gym, you will see Wilkie Gilmore's jersey hanging right there amongst all the trophies. His jersey is perhaps the most valuable one of all of them. Please join me in honoring the memory of our 2021, not yet, Lauren J. Keyes Memorial Honoree, Wilkie Gilmore. Want this mic? So Wilkie's sister, Marilyn, was unable to join us today, but she's recorded a very special video on behalf of her brother. So if you can, please turn your attention to the screen, and hopefully this is audible for everybody to hear.
Thank you, Terry Dinan, for the introduction, and a special thank you for highlighting Wilkie's wonderful achievements in the article, "He Was One of Our Own," on the website newcanaanite.com. First, to the members of the Old Timers Club, former New Canaan High School athletes being inducted today, relatives, students, guests, and New Canaanites. It is a privilege for me to be representing my brother Wilkie today. I'm sorry I could not be there in person, but currently I'm experiencing sciatica and just at the very beginning of my treatments. When Terry contacted me about accepting this honor, my first reaction was to say that what could I say different from my other acceptance speeches for Wilkie's other honors? Then I pondered, and I thought, what would Wilkie say? Well, first, Wilkie would like to give some acknowledgments, I believe. Wilkie would first want to acknowledge and thank his coaches, Coach Lauren Keyes, Coach Joe Sikorsky, and Coach Bill Murphy. Each man had a direct influence on him as an athlete and as a person. He greatly admired all three. Next, Wilkie would say how proud he was of his hometown and organizations like the Old Timers Club for recognizing and supporting athletes, as well as the athletic department of New Canaan High School. It is my understanding that this club has finally put a name to that number 12 jersey, and that there is an exhibit dedicated to Wilkie in the Hall of Trophies at New Canaan High. Thank you for carrying on his legend. Next, I think Wilkie would want to acknowledge the town of New Canaan. Wilkie and all of the Gilmores loved New Canaan. The phrase, "it takes a village," reflects the wonderful support and spirit of this town. New Canaan was a place where people relived victories and consoled the defeats for a whole week after the sporting events. There was a feeling of family in town. If you lived in New Canaan, we were all one big family. It was a small, quaint village where everyone knew everyone. Next, Wilkie would want to acknowledge and credit his parents for instilling in us the fact that our abilities were limitless. We were taught to and raised to believe that you can achieve anything you put your mind to. Both of our parents were college graduates. My mother started teaching in South Carolina. When she married my father and moved north, they were not hiring African American teachers, so she learned to cook. She opened her own business, Gilmore Caterers. My dad had a business entitled House of Service. It was a home and office cleaning business. They were successful, and they set an example and goals for us. All of us graduated from college and had wonderful careers. Just as an aside, when I graduated June 3rd, 1968, my mother said to me, "Now, when are you going to get your master's degree?" I said, "Mom, I haven't even taken off my cap and gown yet, and you want me to start my next endeavor." She laughed, but I started graduate school in September. Our parents taught us to develop skills which would lead to success. Thus, dare to be great. This was Wilkie's motto in his life. He taught and echoed this to everyone he knew, young and old. Wilkie was great. Wilkie was a great athlete. This is why we're here today. Most of you know his history in New Canaan High School. 3 state championships in 3 years under 3 different coaches. A full scholarship to the University of Colorado, where he was an All-American, a scholar, and graduated with a 4.0 average and a degree in business. Later, he went on to get a law degree from the University of Connecticut Law School. Wilkie was one of the few people in California to pass the bar on the first attempt. I could go into much more detail about his statistics and athletic achievements, but that would keep me talking for another 10 to 20 minutes, and I was only given 5 or so. Secondly, Wilkie was a great family man. He adored his parents. He was a mama's boy. My mother insisted that my parents buy him a new car before he returned to his sophomore year in Boulder, Colorado. She also kept a scrapbook of the newspaper clippings for every game that he played. Before every game, she would prepare him a steak. My mother's death really rocked Wilkie like nothing I'd seen before. Wilkie idolized our oldest brother, Elliot Jr. Elliot qualified himself as a mediocre basketball player who only averaged about 12 points a game. Wilkie's goal was to be greater than Elliot. Elliot was 5 years older than Wilkie, and says that even though he was in college and later the Air Force during the time Wilkie played those championship years, he was not able to attend any of Wilkie's games, but he fondly remembers an incident when they were younger. He said that my parents had put up a basketball hoop on a tree, and they would shoot hoops outside all the time. So one day they were outside shooting hoops, and Elliot said he just got tired and said, I'm going inside. Well, Wilkie continued shooting. Well, it was getting darker and darker and pitch night. And finally, my mother went out there and said, you come in and get your dinner. Elliot says, he was a perfectionist, always trying to improve his skill. He and my sister, Cecilia, are 11 months apart. They did everything together, including Young Life, a non-denominational Christian youth group led by one of the high school teachers. They both sang in the high school choir, the Choraleers, and according to my sister, Wilkie would take her to White Plains to do her Christmas shopping. Celia says that she remembers how supportive Wilkie was when she got divorced. He admired his nieces and nephews. Wilkie would come over to my house, and just any time of the day, sometimes it was his lunchtime, because he wanted to see his nieces and nephews, and he'd say, where are those kids? My niece, Alita Finner, who's Cecilia's oldest daughter, wrote in remembrance of Wilkie. Wilkie was a dreamer and a visionary, but never left his community or his family behind. He cut our grandmother's house in half and moved it down the Route 123 and then remodeled it, making sure to create comfortable living quarters for our elderly Aunt Bert. Wilkie cared about people and even politics. He loved New Canaan. He participated in many activities in town. He started a basketball camp for New Canaan kids and kids from surrounding towns and cities. He was a CPA and a lawyer. He ran and won a seat on the town council, but mostly he loved talking to the members of the community. He wanted to give back. Finally, Wilkie was a great person. He was a true Christian. He was kind. He was considerate. He was honest. He was skillful. He was mischievous. He was playful, compassionate, and a very loving person. For someone who was held in such high esteem, he was not boastful. He remained humble and thankful for his blessings. Maurice Wilkins Gilmore would say to everyone here today that no matter what your gift or talent is, strive to make a difference in this world. Not everyone is meant to be an outstanding athlete. Quoting from his yearbook, skill is the best claim to greatness. So develop exceptional skills in your area of strength, whether it's art, music, academics, mechanical, interpersonal, leadership, sports, and so on. Yes, Wilkie would say, no matter what your goals are in life, dare to be great. Thank you so very much for this opportunity.
Enjoy lunch. Thank you all. Please give one more hand for our 2021 New Canaan Old Timers.